No, I think the question was, when did you first...
Well, I stayed up here for a year, and then Mother kept telling people that I was living here, and I think she was kind of ashamed because I said, well, what's she doing? Mother said, well, she's just trying to get the place fixed and get the her yard. So finally, I built the first one, but I didn't have a guest room up here. You see, I just had my bedroom. And it was not until later that I added the first 2 rooms and a bath, and then when Colonel Fletcher came to live with us, I built his room on. But I built this first 2-room cabin. And we couldn't even get sheetrock or anything to seal it inside, so Mr. Stump sealed it with building paper that had big orange chrysanthemums printed on it. It was the funniest looking thing you ever saw. But that was just so I'd have a place to put my family when they came visiting. And all the folks in the family said, well, what can we do to help you? Can we do anything to help you get started? I said, yeah. Give me 15 minutes in your attic, and no questions asked. So that's how I got a lot of my furniture out of the family's attics.
So,
and then there was that one, and then we added 2 more and a bathhouse because we didn't have water in the cabins. And the first, a little over a year, I had no electricity. I had lamps and candles and a wood stove in the kitchen.
Here or
right here, and right by myself. Me and the bulldog.
2 rooms and a path.
2 rooms and a path. Well, I had bath. I had water in, and that was something that my neighbors would come in and say, "We want to see your house." I said, "Well, fine, come right in." They tell us you got water in. I said, "Yes, I have, but you ain't got no electric."
They thought you had to have.
And I said, "No, I don't have an electricity. We use gravity." Well, a lot of them didn't know about gravity. Their husbands hadn't told them. And I remember once was so bad she's about to die. I said, "Well, where's your spring? Is it higher than your house?" She said, "Yeah, and I have to tote the water all the way from the spring every day." I said, "Well, all you have to do is pipe it down to your house, and the gravity will make it run in the house." Well, what all she was going to do to her husband, he told her she couldn't have water in until she had electric.
Well,
so
first
one of those women, I said, "Well, now you can do it yourself. I buy vegetables and eggs and butter from you, and you can buy the pipe one length at a time, a 22-foot length at a time. Measure how many lengths of pipe you need, and you can use that money to buy the pipe, and then you make your husband put it in, and there, your husband and your son." And they did. They got the prettiest bathroom on the creek now. But the men had told the women they couldn't have water.
Well, just at first you think of when I think of a bath, I think of a hot water heater and all this stuff. But there's no reason not to have the.
No, I had the wood stove in the kitchen and a hot water tank.
No reason to
see, and a circulating thing, the old new majestic range.
Well, now for the benefit of the people who might hear the tape or read the transcript, let's say the little Phoenix Lodge between your house here and your cottage is there's a lovely little stream that you might hear on the tape.
Yeah, that's
between
that's
the
Phoenix
2.
Creek. You see, the way I didn't name it. That's Big Phoenix Mountain, and this is Little Phoenix Mountain, and this is Phoenix Creek.
And it's Phoenix Lodge.
Everybody calls it Phoenix Creek, and Phoenix Mountain, and Phoenix Creek. And one of the first letter, of course I was on a star route, I got a letter. I hadn't been up here very long before I got this envelope, and it was addressed to Phoenix Creek Lady, FWNYCREKLADY, Phoenix Creek Lady. I looked at it. I opened it. Was my garage bill. It was for me, all right. But I went in the post office. Miss Irene was in there. I said, "Miss Irene, did you send this to me?" She looked. She said, "It was yours, wasn't it?" I said, "Well, they looked at it and said, well, that must be who it is." So they put it over in Bill Cox's box. He was the mailman. And so they watched him, and he was sifting through. He came out, didn't even hesitate, threw it right over on my back.
Is that right?
I had to keep that and frame it, but I lost it.
That's clever. So you ended up, after you got your feet on the ground, and when did you decide, or what caused you to come to the decision to have a lodge type instead of a girls' school?
People kept writing me and saying and wanting to know if I took boarders.
Oh, I see. So the need was there.
Yes, the need was there already. And I didn't try to take people until after I took them after I had electricity here.
Mm-hmm.
But for a while I still had lamps and candles in the cabins, and I had one woman come up later after I had put electricity and water in the cabins. She brought somebody with her, and then she nearly cried. She said, "I've been telling these people all this time this was one place they could come and have kerosene lamps and a chamber pot."
And you messed it up.
And I messed it all up.
Oh, that's fabulous! And you have how many cottages?
Well, there's 7, but 2 of them have 2 rooms, and another one has. Now we've added to it till it has 5 rooms. But anyway, it's they have the individual cabin, and I tried not to take more than 8 to 10 people, but they gang up on me. I can remember when Dr. Charlie Norfrey came up with Charlie and Jeannie and 3 children, and they all took the top cabin and bought the sleeping bags.
Oh, really?
I mean, the children. So that they would, just because there were 2 beds, and I usually had a double and a single bed in each cabin. But they pile up on me.
Now, with you saw it was a going thing then, didn't you?
Yes, it was all right, but in a very few years, at first I thought I'd never get started, and then it's been harder to stop it. Once you start it, people still call and want reservations, and they get cross about it when I say, well, I'm not, and I say, well, I'm too old and I can't get the help.
Well, this is such a lovely place. Now, this not only turned into, now you've had several weddings here.
Yes, the people like to, well, the first one was the girl who helped me, and well, you know who Colleen Miller. She's now Mrs. Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
You know her.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you know Colleen.
Campbell.
So Colleen and Dara wanted to be married out here, and so they were married. They were the first ones. They had pictures over there. They were married in the walled garden, and from then on, people wanted to have their weddings here. So we've had them to come from High Point, Winston. Way down in the eastern part of the state, and they've come up to be married out here. And some of the people who came here as little bitty children said, "Well, when I grow up, can I be married in your garden?" And I said, "Yes." And they write and they come back.
Do you have any idea how many weddings you've had out there?
Well,
in your garden?
No, I don't really. We've had the little wall garden, the Roman Catholics, the Episcopal bishop, practically all the other church leaders have blessed it so that it serves as a chapel. You see, Roman Catholic, for instance, can be married in that, and it's as though they were married in the church, in the chapel. And we've had several Baptists. We've had a couple of Episcopal. We had a Mennonite. Dr. Kurtz's daughter was married out here.
Yes, right.
A Mennonite and a Methodist, and several Baptists. I don't know how many. But one little gal called a couple of months ago and wanted to know if she could be married here, and I said, well, and that's when the yard was all torn up, the ditch going through and all. And I said, when do you want to be married? She said, in June. I said, call me the first week in May and see how the yard looks. So I haven't heard from her. I don't know if she's been coming.
So, I know also that you had quite entertained, or you had large dinners.
Yeah, well, that's in the winter when I had no other guests.
Is that when you had?
Yeah, the lot of groups would want to have their Christmas parties and that sort of thing. So the medical group from this area, Ash, Allegheny, and Watauga, had their Christmas parties out here for several years. And I met somebody the other day and said they had a party out here. Anyway, and then private dinner parties. I wouldn't have it one at a time, but in the winter, you see, if somebody wanted to have a dinner party, I'd do it for them. And wedding breakfast. I could have that between the breakfast for these people and their lunch. Well, they didn't have lunch; they had tea. And then the reason I started serving afternoon teas and opened a sort of tea garden, people in town would ask me. See, there was no place to take a guest, and they'd say, "Could we bring? Why don't you serve tea to your guests? Can't you serve it to us?" Well, I served a high tea to our guests. They did, but you see, they had their coffee and juice in their rooms, in the cabins, whenever they thought they were going to be awake. Then they could come up to breakfast any time up until 11 o'clock or so. So we did away with a noon lunch and had an early high tea. Mm-hmm. And we'd have that in the garden or the porch or under the fire, depending on the weather. And then dinner at 7. So people would say, "Well, why can't you let us? Can't we have tea parties?" I said, "Yes, if you'll have it between 3 and 6." So 4 o'clock was the best time, and I'd have as many as 6 or 8 tea parties out here in an afternoon. We had tables all around the yard, and we started that because there was a need for it. There was no, if you had a guest for the day, if it was not from 4th of July to Labor Day, there was no place to take them.
Well,
So Miss Graybeal started serving lunches.
Little Phoenix Lodge has become, or was, when it was flourishing, let's say, it was well known all over the state.
Yes, thanks to wonderful press people. Well, Beth Tartan came up. Well, first Bodger Hunter came from the Journal Sentinel and did an article on it, but that was only because she was doing a series of articles on women who had made up their own businesses. See, and I think that's old Mr. Charlie Norfleet, I think, met her somewhere and said, "Why don't you do one on Little Phoenix?" They had they came here.
Now was that Dr. Norfleet?
Well, Mr. Norfleet Senior. Charlie is his son was the urologist at Baptist Hospital, but Mr. Charlie and Miss Corinne, they both have died since, but they came up every summer. And then Dr. Charlie and his family came, and then from it spread. The Bonsons started coming, and all of their friends, and then Wade. Charlie Wade and Margaret, his wife, came. That's where we got the money for the library.
Yeah, I remember.
And Fred Hooser and June, his wife, came. But then, you see, Beth would come up and then go back and do one of her articles on what we were having for dinner with the recipes. And so that spread, and then people from the State Library in Raleigh, old mother's friends in Raleigh, they said, "What's Frances doing?" "Well, she's running to a Phoenix Lodge." And then the Raleigh people started partly from that and partly from John Park, who owned the Raleigh Times. They came up, and let's see. Fred Fletcher, who Colonel Fletcher's brother, owned the big radio and TV station now. WRAL, United WRAL. And young Fred ran every morning during the summer one year on his little commentary. He said, "You know what? I just looked at the thermometer, and up at Francis Thomas's Little Phoenix Lodge, it's only so-and-so the temperature, and it would be nearly 100 down there. Don't you wish we were up there?" That sort of thing. And so it's just from mouth to mouth. I never did any advertising.
Were all your guests famous to you? But were there any unusual people? I know you.
Well, I had them from Washington, Baltimore, New York. Sidney K. Kalmanowitz, who owned the Russian Tea Room. Sidney Kalmanowitz. Sidney K. They changed the name to K after the war. His daddy had changed it before. He owned and operated the Russian Tea Room, and he came down and stayed. We had lots of fun. And so then he said, "Fred, the best thing I can do for you, I'm not going to tell anybody about this." I said, "Look, I'm trying to run a business. What do you mean you're not going to tell anybody about it?" He said, "Because you'd be full of all the old New York people that you don't want." I said, "How do you know I don't want them?" He said, "I know them, and I know you don't want them." So he kept quiet about it.
He didn't want to find his.
We have.